best way to lighten my footprint is to consume less. And the next best thing is to find ways to use the stuff to its full potential. And finally, I'd like to use my waste to regenerate the environment. Every dollar we spend has the power to influence what the producers create, and how we limit, convert, or use our waste has the power to influence our environment. Let's use this power for good. Mindful consumption has 3 stages. Firstly, there's the respect and awareness of the waste generated throughout the total life of the product. Secondly, there's the search for ways to use the materials to their full potential. And then thirdly, ways to reclaim the materials to regenerate the environment. To buy or not to buy? That is the basic question. Above all, refuse everything that cannot be recycled. And if you get a choice, choose materials that cost less energy to produce and cost less energy to recycle. For instance, both wood and metal biodegrade, but wood costs less to create and is less dangerous as it degrades. As consumers, we're trapped in an ongoing cycle where resources are taken from the earth, then manufactured as cheaply as possible, and then we like it and forsake it for the next big thing. But we need to resist everything that is harmful. Every day, waste washes up on tiny island beaches, and it's often from another country. The truth is, we don't know the real cost of our waste. Nylon is one of the biggest pollutants in city harbours. The nanoplastics, tiny plastics, can get into our skin and bloodstream. Next time you buy underwear, check the material. The plastic-based materials include nylon and elastane, whereas natural fibres include cotton and wool. Yes, wool underpants are a thing. And when you go to throw out the old underpants that are made of natural fibres, you can put them into the worm farm. So it's a good idea to know the true cost of the manufacture, the mining, the wearing or the using, and the disposal of a product. The true cost of the mining of materials includes the loss of habitat, loss of carbon into the atmosphere, loss of soil to absorb water, polluted streams and rivers, and mining often occurs in remote areas in communities of vulnerable people and in countries with poor governance. Let's take a closer look at more parts of the consumer trap. Once we have taken the materials, energy is spent on storing and transporting these materials to factories around the world. The making of the product also generates waste. The factories have significant pollutants and wasted health of workers and surrounding communities. The forsaking of a product results in either hoarding it or disposing, and both of these use energy and produce pollution. Let's have a closer look at gold. I didn't know that half of all the gold mined today is for jewellery, and another quarter of the gold is just implied investment. Implied investment includes the coins that grandpa stuffed under the bed, the medals in your grandmother's drawer, the ingots that nations keep in safes, and the gold hidden by refugees for financial security. When we make a vow to never buy new gold, we actually increase the value of everyone else's gold and the gold that we have. Mining is the first step in the total life of a product. The plastic diaper, or the nappy as we call it in Australia, is super cheap and it lasts forever in the landfill. It floats in the ocean and it's toxic when it's burnt for biogas, as they do in England. But what impact has that plastic diaper had on humanity? What impact has it had on culture? Has it changed our parenting style? I know that some children are left in the diaper for more than 8 hours. Has the use of the diaper influenced toileting and bowel control? I didn't think about this until I discovered there are cultures that don't use nappies. And yet those babies don't defecate all over the place. These cultures have a totally different approach to toileting. Sorry this presentation has fallen into the gutter. I promise I'll bring it back up. But while we're down here, did you know that fatbergs, a waste made out of fat and plastic, cost billions of dollars? They harden like cement in the sewers. So the true cost of a so-called disposable wet wipe is far greater than the price in the shop. The true cost of disposal includes forsaking other people's health. Here's a woman who is melting a circuit board to recover the parts and the materials. You can see those other parts that she's recovered already in the buckets beside her. She's got no mask and she works in cramped conditions. So next time I need to dispose of a computer, I'm going to spend more time disassembling it. I'm going to call the repair shop and ask them if they want the parts. And I'm going to search for a safer disposal. Remember that consumer trap where we take, make, like and forsake? That's pretty much blind consumption. It would be great to live with purposeful consumption, where we accept stuff that we can determine its reuse. We protect it by maintaining it, maybe even improve it by restoring it or retrofitting it. Then when we don't need it anymore, we let someone else have it. We can live simply so others may simply live, but we can also reduce our consumption so that all beings can live better. Reusing something doesn't change the product or its function, whereas repurposing it gives it a totally different function. For instance, we can reuse a jar to store leftovers, then as the jar gets old and scratched, we can reuse it for seed raising or a potted plant. A fun reuse of a product is to redistribute it, to share it. Sharing gives goodwill. Think about the full cost of hoarding. Do you desire a home for stuff or a home for people? To retrofit means to upgrade or improve something. These eye-catching seed packets were made out of old children's books and magazines. Things usually break because we are using them, and having an attitude to repair things helps us to deal with mistakes and failures. Better than this, some repairs can make the item stronger or more beautiful. Patchwork and invisible mending turns a piece of clothing into a walking artwork. And I suspect that the art of repairing garments is the origin of lacework and embroidery. A hole becomes the center of a flower. There are repair cafes all around the world. They bring people together. The knowledge keepers feel valued and the consumer discovers how to fix things. Old cars in Cuba are a valuable tourist attraction and a strong part of Awana's cultural identity. When we got a chance to look under the bonnet, I was surprised to see the engines were remodeled and retrofitted with whatever parts they could make or find. The simple scarf has survived fashion revolutions because it has mastered the art of remodeling. A scarf can be worn lots of different ways. We remodel something like a lounge by changing the fabric print, but you can be brave and refurbish it by making the cushioning more comfortable and the springs stronger. Most people wouldn't be aware of why shirts have cuffs and collars. Cuffs protect the sleeves from everyday grime, and collars used to be removable so they could be washed and ironed. A collar is a way to retrofit a dress or a shirt. To refurbish something means to bring it back to good quality. Good quality shoes that are super comfy to wear deserve to be maintained. Refurbishing them gives a totally new lease of life. I bought this head vase a couple of years ago. Originally she was roughly painted and had a wonky eye. So my mum and I spent a day repainting her with vibrant makeup, and I repurposed her as a stationery pot. Now let's have a look at restoration. What I admire about nature is that it is forever optimistic. Life doesn't give up. It pushes through and it demands to find a way. It will colonize a building with mold and plants, and it will slowly turn the building back into soil. Maintaining things saves energy, saves resources, and it holds on to our heritage. Let me introduce you to Veena. She's a professor of materials engineering, and she has a team that work on ways to convert waste. She's got a great passion for it. It's important that manufacturers start thinking beyond the use of their product, and they start making products that are easily separated, easily dismantled. So we can live by default or by design. We can place things at random, or we can consider their use and their interaction and integrate them. In the example on the left, where there's random placement of things, the car or the van is a pollution source to the pond, it's a threat to the chickens, and the falling fruit is a bit of a menace if it's near the pathway. Whereas in the designed placement, the palm tree shades the van doesn't pollute the pond because there's a filtering garden between, and the fallen fruit goes directly to the chickens. Beyond converting waste into new products or finding more efficient connections, there are ways to use waste to regenerate the environment. The simplest regenerative act is to save seed and grow it into a new plant. My sister Cherie has lots of seed raising tubs on her kitchen windowsill. These lemons came from a tree she grew from seed. A hedge is a regenerative substitute for the rusting metal fence. What difference can one person make? The Dalai Lama reminds us to think of the annoyance of the little mosquito in the middle of the night. Every action we take to reduce waste makes a difference. Here we can see the difference between an industrial cup of tea and the permaculture cup of tea. You can see the huge amount of transport energy used, storage in the supermarkets, packaging, selling, and all the different types of energy sources used to boil water to make that cup of tea. Whereas in the permaculture cup of tea, you've got nearly all of that energy at home, natural energies are used, and the waste is recycled. Sometimes we can turn waste into wealth. Food waste becomes fertilizer, grey water benefits gardens, and restored homes, antiques and vintage clothing can turn a profit. In summary, we reduce waste by refusing non-recyclables, resisting hazardous materials, and sharing items. Then there are many ways to get full use out of things: reusing them, repurposing, retrofitting, repairing, remodeling and rebuilding. But ultimately, the best avoidance of waste lies in the redesign of the items so that they are easily deconstructed. Then finally, we redesign our lifestyles so we use things more efficiently. If you remember only one thing today, next time you buy something, choose the product that is made with biological resources, because nature works for free 7 days a week and it doesn't need any help from us to recycle.